Greetings and welcome to Connecting with Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammad Awais. On this episode, we have a very special guest. She is business coach and leadership advisor for middle managers, Sayre Darling. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Sayre Darling. Sayre, welcome.
Thank you, Mohammed. It's nice to be here.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, what I do today has really been more of a journey than one particular event. And I've always been interested in understanding and recognizing what people's motivations are and passions for their work. I have a quick story. I worked in a local hospital here, and I went to a department in the hospital to write some marketing materials for them. And the person who I was going to be interviewing for this project said to me when I arrived, she said, "I'm so glad you're here. It means we really exist." And that's really a story that illustrates the power of bringing people's individual motivations and passions into the conversation about what they do, as well as speaking to them about their products, their services, etc. So whether I'm supporting someone with a career change or helping leaders with communications and middle managers, I always look for and connect with what's in their hearts and what motivates them to do what they do, as well as the details about their business.
What is your higher purpose in life?
Well, one of my higher purposes I recognized in high school when I learned that really one of my superpowers is to make observations about my life experience and share that with others in ways that they can see themselves and better understand what's going on in their own lives. So, my purpose is to help others connect what's in their head to what's in their heart and then bring that information into communication for them, helping them connect with others. A phrase I learned from my dad that illustrates this very well is figuring out what you want to say isn't as important as figuring out you need to say in order to be heard. So you might want to talk about something that's important to you, and unless you understand whether it's important or how to say it so that your audience understands it, doesn't really matter. So figuring out what you want to say isn't as important as figuring out what you need to say in order to be heard.
What have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
The three biggest challenges. Number one, I had some very challenging dynamics, very complicated dynamics in my family, which is where I learned how to communicate in the middle for middle managers. And I did that by translating what my parents intended to say to my siblings and translated what my siblings intended to say to the other. So that's where I learned my role. And living through that was very, very challenging. And then professionally, the biggest challenge was working for three organizations in a row, two of which I was laid off from, and one I resigned because they were all involved in major lawsuits that hit the organization and then required that they have a layoffs of up to 30% of their staff. And so I worked on the front line in crisis communications, high stakes labor issues, union negotiations, rolling strikes. And that's where I really learned how people react under pressure and how they feel versus how they need to show up every day. And then the third challenge is to then leave all of the past in the past and act from the present and only bring the wisdom from the past in moving forward. Because once we have challenges, we tend to want to stay in the past, trying to evaluate whether what's going on in the present is going to become another challenge that we have faced in the past. So only take the wisdom from the past forward and act from the present.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Well, the biggest failure was living through organizations who went through those major lawsuits and having my employment cut very short in those situations. And what I learned was that you have to speak up in the moment when you see that what people are saying and what people are doing are two different things. When the conversation doesn't really line up to make sense with what your experience is, um, that's where these errors that lead to larger discrepancies, lawsuits, crises begin is when people keep repeating a story of what they want to believe is true and they're ignoring the underlying issues. And learning how to have the courage and speak up in the moment was really, really difficult. And so, how I recovered is I turned those learnings into the expertise I have now in leadership communications. And it's really focusing on those people who are really seeing or having the best view of where those discrepancies might occur. Executives have an idea of what a strategy is, and middle managers understand how things are really working, and the two really don't know how to talk to each other. So I turned very painful experiences into my superpowers, into my expertise.
What is the most impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
The most impactful book I read is called The Only Certain Freedom: The Transformative Journey of the Entrepreneur. It was written in 2018 by Patrick O'Neill, and it really details his journey from moving from working for a large organization to going out on his own and his journey as an entrepreneur. And sometimes when you become an entrepreneur, it's your choice. You're doing it in the moment when you want to be doing it. Other times you feel like it's a choice that's forced upon you because you don't see any other options. And the fact of the matter is the journey, the transformative part of the journey of being an entrepreneur is to find a way to bring our heart into our work and really do the work we thoroughly enjoy, which helps us develop our own voice. Um, Yet this transformation doesn't really come without a cost. And this book outlines the normal peaks and valleys, how to work with our own inner critic, and any other typical archetypal behaviors or viewpoints that we have to eventually get to our own epiphany that being an entrepreneur helps me be more of myself and bring my own gifts into the world. It's that aha moment that occurs that helps us realize that as entrepreneurs, we're becoming who we were meant to be in the first place.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
Yes. Well, my goals in the next 12 months is to utilize a lot of content that I have developed. I'm an avid contributor to LinkedIn, and I have three, I'm going to call them mini books, which are a collection of previous LinkedIn posts. One on establishing yourself as a middle manager. The second is communications is a middle manager's number one leadership tool. And the third one is that we need to change the way we change and change the way we lead. The second thing I'm doing is to write a book or a manual for middle managers. And then the third thing is to have more speaking engagements and more podcasts. And the reason why is because when we talk about our work and engage in conversations with others, it really prompts a number of other new ideas and new ways of engaging people. And I very much enjoy that.
What advice you will give to younger yourself?
I would give my younger self the advice of surrendering to my wisdom and lean in and act on your own intuitive ideas. This speaks to the point I brought up earlier of learning to leave the past in the past. And sometimes we're so focused on not repeating those events or what will we do when those events come to pass again that we forget that we have some wisdom and I can trust my wisdom. I do know that about myself, and that my intuitive ideas often are better things to lean into and to try bring better results than things that I've done a considerable amount of planning around.
How can we support you?
Yeah. You can support me by engaging in a conversation. It's not just engaging with a post on LinkedIn, but really starting a conversation, which it's different from business communications because conversations is where trust and connections are really built. So let's have a conversation. And I love engaging in podcasts because talking about what I do and responding to questions is how we generate energy, new ideas, find our way forward, and become multidimensional human beings.
What would you say about your guest appearance on the show?
Well, it's always a gift to have the opportunity to be called out and be seen for our work. But the questions you gave me to ponder in advance not only gave me the opportunity to share more about what I do, but helps me to refine and recommit to my own thoughts and my own ideas.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate you for this. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
Sure. Well, your ability to communicate and build conversations is what creates connections and provides quality in your life. And when you change the quality of your questions, you change the quality of your life. And many people I find freak themselves out because, as I said, they remembered what's happened in the past. Their fears generated from that creates their own self inner critic, insecurities, and many people feel they lack skills and self-confidence that comes through self-reflection. So speaking up and representing your authentic self, your real dreams, speaking up for your own ideas and holding your own during difficult conversations requires courage. So you have to develop your courage. And the other thing I would offer is don't think you need to be perfect in doing this every single day. There is, first of all, nothing that's perfect. And second of all, every day is just practice. So all you have to do is show up and practice, note what you did well and what you want to improve, and then turn around and do it again tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Sayre, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of connecting with the entire community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Wes. Until the next episode, all good